So, hey guys, welcome to Appalachia's Homestead. I'm coming right at you with an intro on this video because I'm going to literally be re-editing and re-uploading a video that I had up last week. And I took it down because I did something wrong. And I know I put the boo-boo correction in the description, but I want you all to get it right. So I'm telling you on the up front, I'm not canning black beans right now and probably won't be for the next couple of days because we've got so many other things going on. And you want to see how to, and you know, the content's good, it's just I made a mistake. So I pulled the video on my own after I put it up because I wanted it to be correct in terms of what you were seeing. And so now I can go in and I can add the correction in the clip. So the deal is I got the headspace wrong. See, I'm my own worst critic. So I am going to be putting that correction in when you see me talking about, and I'll put it up there, about the headspace. When you're canning, headspace is very important. Is it the end-all, end-all? You know, you're probably going to be all right if you make a mistake, depending on what's going on, but it can cause problems with how foods expand. It can cause problems with how your lids seal, and we want our lids to seal, right? So I want my content to be right. I've made videos about talking about this. Y'all know if you watch regularly that I, joked about, making a mistake with my headspace on the beans. Here's the rule of thumb. If you're doing simple things like jams and jellies, whatnot, rule of thumb typically, always refer to your manuals and books, is that you're looking at about 1/4 of an inch or so on your headspace. If you're looking at things like pickles and whatnot, then you're going to be somewhere about 1/2 an inch. When you're dealing with a lot of low acidic foods such as beans and meats, typically you're going to be in the 1-inch headspace, okay? Maybe a little bit more depending on whatever, but that's a rule of thumb. But I wanted to put this in here to let you know that when you are canning beans, you have a 1-inch headspace. The rest of it is great. So we appreciate you being here. I'm going to re-edit the video. We're going to put it up so you can see, and you can get on with pressure canning your beans and properly. Here we go. Guys, we are about to can, but I'm also doing some vacuum sealing in jars. You can do that. I just want to show you the difference here. If you are starting to pick up items to put away in dry storage, I want to show you how they pack different. It makes sense when you look at it, but I think you need to see the visual. On the left, you have a 12-ounce box of Garden Rotini from Food Lion. I put it into a mason jar or a 1-quart regular mouth jar. These jars are the exact same, okay? Then, I know, don't laugh, but look right here. This is 16 ounces of elbow macaroni. You can see that. So because they're smaller, because they're more compact, because they don't take up as much space, you can put more macaroni into a quart jar than you can a lot of other shapes of pasta. Get what you can get, but if you're going to be using this method, I wanted you to see the difference. And yes, I had to take the leftover and put it into the ones with the macaroni because I'm not going to waste it, but I wanted you to see the difference. 12 ounces, boom. 16 ounces, boom, with a little extra. All right, guys, I've had a lot of questions about canning beans since my last video or two, so I'm going to just go over the basics with you once again. And please get a canning book. Do not rely on sources only on YouTube. We get things wrong sometimes, or we forget a detail. You need to do your own homework. I don't know if anybody else that you watch is telling you that, but they need to be. Today we are canning black beans. I'm going to simply be putting them into pint jars because I know how I like to cook up black beans, and typically pint jar is about all I need. So let's get started. If you are canning beans, they are considered a low acidic food. Whether it's the shelled beans like this or whether it's green beans still in the hull, you have to pressure can your beans. I don't care what your great-great-grandmother did because mine did the same thing. We pressure can beans. Same with meats and other low acidic foods like corn, okay? There's other examples, but understand pressure canning is required. Now I have washed all of my jars. I've got my rings washed, and my lids are going to be soaking in hot water just to kind of stick with the old rules that I'm used to in terms of kind of getting them hot. I'm going to be putting 1/2 teaspoon of salt in my beans. They do not harden them up. Most people put salt in their beans when they can them. It's going to be okay. So what I'm going to do is these are still hot, fresh jars, pint jars. I'm going to fill these up with the beans, leave a 1/2 of a headspace, 1/2 inch headspace at the top. So I'm going to put the salt in first, then I'm going to put the beans in, and then I'm going to put the water. Now, did I soak the beans? Yes, I soak my beans. Actually, I even soak these a little bit extra longer than usual, at least overnight or all day long is good. These actually went almost 24 hours. I soaked them, washed them off, checked them, soaked them again. I couldn't get to the canning situation last night, so I'm doing it this morning. So these have soaked a long time. I do not just throw dry beans in. Some people do that. I know people have had luck with that and others complain about it. I just stick with what I know and what works for me. And yes, I soak the beans. Over here on the side, I have a large stainless stock pot with water, and I'm about to boil the water because that's what I'm going to be putting on my beans. That's the liquid that I choose to use. Okay, so we have the beans. We're filling up the actual pressure canner with water. Follow the directions on your pressure canner. You need to read the manual and do what it says. I have an All-American, but I want you to see, I haven't added the water yet, okay? You see there? So I just want you to see what I've got going on. Once I add the water and I look at all of them, I may have to take a little water out. I may have to take a few beans out. You have to do that, and you'll learn to judge that as you go. And the only way you learn that is by raw experience. Know that now. So I had some packs of black beans that were a little bit older, okay? They're dry and I want to put them on the shelf. The reason I'm canning these beans is because I want them ready to eat. Remember, when you can foods, they will extend the life of that food another 12 to 18 months, and they will be ready. If you pressure can them or if you can them correctly at all, they should be ready to eat. You may add more spices or add them into a recipe or cook them up again, but they will be ready to eat, just like the canned beans that you buy, say at Aldi or Walmart. Those are ready to eat. That is what you're trying to achieve here. I've had a lot of questions about that. Why would you do that when they can just sit dry on the shelf? Well, folks, if you don't have any power or you don't have a whole lot of time or a lot of scenarios, or you just like to have a homegrown or a home good convenience food, it doesn't get any better than this. This right here was 2 packs of black beans. You can see I haven't used them all. I can can again. Or what I can do is go ahead and take these soaked beans and put them in a pot, cook them all afternoon with a little bit of bouillon and some seasonings and stuff, and I can have that for dinner. So what you do after this point is up to you. If you have anything left, you could mix it with other beans and then, like I said, can again, put them in some soups. That's up to you, darling. So we have our pressure canner heating up. I have to put some oil on the rim because it's all American. Haven't done that yet, but got to. Boiling hot water, please be very careful. Jars are warm, beans are prepped, salt in it, ready to fill with the boiling water. My lids are ready to go in the hot water. I do that. You do your own research on whether you want to. And then here are my rings. They've come out of the dishwasher the same time my jars did. I will be using the little magnet doohickey to do that in a little bit, but right now we've got to get the boiling water inside the jars. Aren't those beautiful? With my ladle here, you're looking at about, with a pint, about a ladle and a half or so, okay? I'll judge it. You'll judge it when you do yours too. See, I'm just coming right on up there. Okay, setting it down, easy, easy. So see, I'm gonna come in here. I want you to watch. If you've never canned before, air bubbles may be more difficult to see because this is dark. But you're going to want to go around on the sides. And what you're doing, you can see them coming up. Look there. Air bubbles. You're wanting to release that because that's going to allow, and even if you flop one out, baby, it's going to happen because you're going to have to wipe that rim anyway. You want to release the air. because that's going to allow things to just fit better, be snug, and actually it may have more space in there than you think. So you'll be able to judge what you're doing going forward. All right, now I'm going to clean the edges of my jars. You can see the steam. It's very hot. Be careful, 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 especially if you got kids around, babies around, and they're helping out. Okay, last clip before I put them in, because I'm not going to go through the entire process. Again, every canner is different. Every person is different. Your situation is different. So I've put the lid and the ring on. I'm going to can them once it's vented properly. Do your homework on that. For 75 minutes. If this was a quart, it would be 90 minutes. I will then obviously turn it off, let it cool, and then we will take the jars out. Once they sit for about 12 to 24 hours, depending, and I know that they have properly sealed and they are cooled, I will clean them up. I will take the rings off. You do not need to keep the rings on. The ring only allows the lid to set in place during the canning process. That's what it's used for. And then I'm going to label these and I'll put them away. Then my beautiful rings, like I tell you every time, I'll wash and clean them up and I'll put them into dry storage so that I can continue to use them over and over. All right, let's get them in the canner. Let's rock and roll. So let me show you something. A lot of people ask me about canning jars and stacking them. They say, Patera, why do you say, number one, why do you take the rings off? Number two, why do you say don't stack them? You can stack them, but you have to have something in between. And the reason for that, that's my washing machine in the background, y'all. The reason for that is because you don't want to compromise the seals on the ones on the bottom. The seals, you know, like Navy SEAL, seal in the ocean. So here's the thing. So my husband, now I'm going to have to adjust my jars here because you can see I've got more height on that one than I do these. So I'm going to have to move some things around, but we got some plywood, just thin plywood, and we cut it in half. So this is not a perfect fit. So I'll have to adjust my jars, and then I'm going to place the plywood once I remove the taller ones to the one side and get the wide mouth on another, okay? I want you to see that. And then I'll be able to set my jars on top. This is a buffer. Some people use cardboard or put them back into the actual boxes that the jars came in. You can do that. I like to have plywood because if you put open groceries a lot of times, or especially a lot of cardboard in a pantry, if a little mouse gets in there, you know what they like to do? So I like this right here, and I like to keep things in a lot of safe tubs. So there's a pantry tip for you today.